Hello. Hi. Welcome to my podcast. This is Chrissie Shirley here. Today, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, and I really would like to share some stuff about my life because one of the things that I'm really aware of is that when people get depressed or when they have anxiety, one of the things that they do is that they get put on to allopathic medicine. Um, so, and that would be something like medication that dulls down the nerves or dulls down the awareness. And my background in this is that as a girl, as a young girl, as a teenage girl, well, actually, goes back before that. It goes back to my mum. My mum, she lost a child, a 10-year-old child, and it was, I mean, it's just horrific when that happens. Her first child, and the doctors in those days, and I don't know whether they do that now, but the doctor put her on what we call sedatives or medication. And I grew up with my mum, and she took medication for the rest of her life. She never ever came off it. She really became addicted to it. And I remember saying that she couldn't live without it. And she used to take it every day. And it wasn't till I was older that I realized that she wasn't really there present with me for a conversation. And I know that because my dad he was very present. I could have a conversation with dad and he would listen to me and I would speak to him. And when I was probably in my 15-year-old, as a 15-year-old, I remember that I started crying every day. Now, I know what it is now from my experience with the work that I do, Access Consciousness. But Mum took me to the doctor and the doctor gave me medication for the crying. And I just thought that was just a normal thing. And so, I probably didn't take it for very long. But there was a time in my life when I was married and I was about 24 years old and I had a baby, my first baby. And my baby was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 3 months old. And I remember the doctor saying to me, you cannot live through this without medication. And he prescribed me a very strong prescription of sedatives. And my husband, thank goodness, he would not take medication. He went through that grief, that whole grief, without any kind of medication at all. But I was hooked. I went onto that medication. I thought it was normal because I knew that it was just what my mum had done. And I always thought it was the most normal thing to do. But what it did is it just kind of disconnected me from who I was. And my husband, who's not my husband now, I left him at a certain time. We broke up. But I'm so grateful for him because he used to nag me and he would say to me, you should get off those sedatives. You should get off them. And in fact, he got a really good friend of ours to have a talk with me, who was somebody that I respected because he was a surgeon and I respected this very dear friend of both him and me. And he said to me, you must come off those medications. And so I did start to. But when I look back, I know it was probably about 8 years that it took me to finally get off those medications. And the reason I came off them altogether finally, because I would come off them, but I still kept them as a sort of a crutch that I might just take the odd one occasionally. I thought I couldn't live without them. Isn't that interesting? There was a time when I left my ex-husband and I had to leave because I couldn't live with him. I was most unhappy and I knew that I was dying inside. So I left, and after a few months, I started applying for jobs, and I got a job working as a dental assistant for a dentist. Now, I used to get terrible toothache when I was working for that dentist. And access consciousness teaches us that a lot of the pain that we feel in our body is actually not ours. And I realize this now, having done access, that that pain that I experienced was not mine. I was picking it up because my body was psychic, and I was picking it up from the clients that were coming to the dentist. But what I used to do was take a lot of paracetamols or Panadols for the pain, because I used to experience this awful pain in my teeth. And so one day he sat me down and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm going to let you go because you've got too many personal problems." Now, when you are taking a lot of kind of stuff like that, you actually don't realize, I don't think you're really present, because what the chemicals do in your body is they sort of detach you from who you are. And after he fired me, I went home and I got all paracetamols, all Panadols, any kind of medication that I had, any of those sedatives that I was still kind of probably sneakily having the odd one, and threw them down the toilet and never had them again. And at that time, I decided that I would never, no, what did I decide? I decided that I was going to get the sharpest mind. I said, I'm going to have the sharpest mind. And I know now that that decision took me in the direction of, like, I've stopped smoking. I mean, I used to smoke and I used to drink quite heavily at times, just kind of binge drinking when you went out on a Saturday night. So all of that gradually went away, and I started to move myself towards consciousness, which I didn't know then at the time. That's actually what led me to the Access bars. It took me in that direction, and what I know now is it was a choice for consciousness, and I choose consciousness now every day. I'm choosing consciousness so that even more doors can open up to create a wonderful life. The reason I want to share this for people is, if anyone has ever said that you should have medication, the thing about medication is it's not the easiest thing to get off, and I'm not really very aware that many doctors actually say, okay, have some medication and then you'll need to come off it after about 3 months or 4 months, or to help you to come off it. And in fact, I've had many doctors send clients to me to help their clients get off the medication. I've had people who have been on medication for over 20 years and been able to get off it. There is a way, and that's called the Access bars, which I really love to promote. The Access bars is so extraordinarily miraculous in what it can create and change for people. The bars is just a really gentle energy process. So do get in touch with me, and I can put you in touch with anyone in the world, or you can have a look on the website and go accessconsciousness.com/bars, and I'll put that link underneath here. My name is Chrissie Shirley, and I wish to share this with you because I would really love for the whole world to know that there is another way. Actually, there was one other thing that I didn't mention, and I would like to mention that just to give you a little bit more awareness. But after about quite a few years after that, my son was killed. He was 23 years old. My second son was killed in a truck accident. And I remember going home for his funeral. And when I walked in the door, my mum wanted to give me sleeping pills because she said you won't be able to go to sleep. And that was the time when I said, no, I'm not going to have any sleeping pills, and I'm not going to take any medication for this grief. I'm going to go through it. And it was very, very hugely emotionally grievous time. And I was desperately looking for something that could help me. And there's somebody phoning me, and I'm going to call back in a minute. And that was when I was looking for some kind of way to go through the grief and to let me go through the grief and get rid of the emotional pain without using medication. And that's what took me to find the bars. I found the bars soon after that. And it was the bars that gradually gave me more of me. That's what the bars does. And it allowed me to come through that grief, and it allowed me to move forward in my life. So I just, if you know anyone who's having this kind of anxiety or depression, please let them know there is a way and they don't have to have medication for it. And what are the infinite possibilities for you, for me, and for the world? Chrissie Shirley here. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.